Alrighty, everybody. Ooh, apparently, so. Hey, everybody! Welcome to the Think Sacred podcast. We're back with Phil again. Phil's back from vacation and ready to get into it, man. How was your vacation?
It was really good. Went to a place that a lot of people here probably won't approve of. No. We went to Vegas, and I can use the excuse that we actually went to a wedding. A good friend of ours, kid got married, so we went to the wedding on one day, and then had some after eats. They gathered the people together on the next day. Mm-hmm. Some of the best. Oh my gosh, some of the best. Yeah, just tacos from like a taco truck. It was amazing. Street tacos.
Yeah,
and then we
I miss like West Coast Mexican food, you know.
It was so good. It was just in their backyard. It was just amazing.
It's not that there isn't like good Mexican food here too, but it's like the Mexican food on the West Coast is a little bit different. It definitely has a different regionality to it. Real quick, so on that last episode with Allison, she left off. She wanted me to clarify for everybody. She was quoting Galatians 3:24 when she was talking about the Ten Commandments being for like a schoolmaster, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like the Ten Commandments are there to teach you at first as you're young or something like that, and then do you know that one? Do you know Galatians 3:24?
I don't recall it off the top, and I didn't get to see that podcast yet. That's the one I didn't see. I saw the one with Corey. That was honestly a really great one. But I haven't seen the one with her, so I'm curious as to that. I do know, like we talked about Galatians in general right before, and what it was written for. It was a scathing rebuke of anyone that wanted to apply the law toward their good works and salvation.
Yeah.
So it was like you say. Jesus is everything, and then you start adding on top of that. Paul was really hitting them hard on that.
There now, one thing is, I did have another comment. So one man on an island returned. Well, now I responded to his first comment on that last video with Allison. His first comment was, and he was actually referencing a short with Corey in it, where Corey is asking, well, where do your morals come from if you don't believe in Christianity, right? Mm-hmm, and once again, like the whole point of the podcast is that, is that Corey's taking up his agnostic position or trying to, even though he didn't disagree with me on a lot of stuff. So it's kind of funny when we get to talking, you know what I mean? Anyways, so his original comment, this one maybe you can help respond to. I responded to it already, but maybe it'd be nice to have your thing. But he says, also it's a very messy comment because he doesn't use capitals. His punctuation is all over the place and not in the right spots. It's kind of hard to read. But he says, our morals come from experience. Why is it morals are limited to religion, who has the worst morals of all, going to war because people don't believe in the same God, for fuck's sake? Get off your high horse. Christians don't own morality. We don't believe in any religion. You just believe in one. We are not animals because we don't believe what you do. I have to ask, where do you get off assuming you're always right and you own morality? Get off your high horse. So, like I said, the interesting part about that comment was the fact that he was actually responding to Corey, mm-hmm. right? Not to me. I wasn't the one who asked the question.
And in context, and I watched that video. Corey is admittedly agnostic, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't trying to defend his agnostic position. He was out there, from what I saw in the video, he was out there just asking questions, like trying to have dialogue. That we talked about that.
You should be asking, where morality comes from.
Yeah. So go ahead. I just want that as the context because I watched the video.
Yeah. So then if you guys don't know, I reply to basically every comment, not every single one. If there's one that just doesn't have any substance at all to it, then I won't reply to it. But as long as you say something, as long as you're asking something, I'll always reply. So I replied back to him. I said, thanks for the comment. We discussed it, and I responded on the next episode of the podcast, meaning the one that me and Allison were on. And then I also, at the end, I always leave something like, hey, we'd love to discuss it more with you. So he replies back and he says, nothing to discuss. Morality is not exclusive to religious nut jobs, for fuck's sake. The most vile people on this planet claim to be religious, and I despise this attitude that I must be evil or hateful just because I don't believe the same thing you do, when in fact you just don't believe in all religions, only your own. Yet I don't agree with one more than you do. All religions should be, in my opinion, be illegal in the public eye. You have no right pushing your shit on people and children. That's child abuse, for fuck's sake.
Okay.
There's nothing.
There's a lot. So keep going.
It's almost done.
Yeah.
It is hard to read because, like I said, he doesn't use capitals and his punctuations are very off and very weird.
Yeah.
Anyways, and so I'm trying to do my best to
Go ahead.
put the pauses in the right spots. He says, there is nothing I would discuss with you as you believe in a make-believe person in the sky. Honestly, how can you look at someone in the face when you believe in a make-believe God? Religion is a form of control for weak, he spelled weak as in W-E-E-K, as in the 7 days of the week. For the 7 days of the week, mine's always has been, always will be.
Okay, well, I mean, do you want me to respond, or
I do want you to respond. So here's the thing we had talked about before. These are the type of people I run into.
I'm not going to respond to that person. I'm going to respond in general to the podcast because it sounds like he doesn't want to listen to us, and that's fine. You know what I mean? That's fine, but in general, I do want to address a couple things real quick.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know what I mean? Because you talk about, you know, when you go out and you talk to people about your religion, you know, you're, you know, it's just been different for me my whole life. It's like these are the type of people that I got to have the discussion with. You know what I mean? And so for me, it's like, okay, well, how do you do this? You know what I mean? You know, there's obviously a lot of just he just doesn't understand, or he never took the time to even listen to or understand what the other person actually believes. You know what I mean? There's like just a ton of assumptions that are just, you know, wild accusations of like what we believe, even though like he said, he clearly he didn't go back and actually watch the podcast and see like what Corey's position was, or you know what he's talking about, or
and again, I watched the podcast. I didn't watch any of the shorts, and I didn't watch the last podcast, so I watched the one with Corey. So let's be clear here. We talked about the shorts and how sometimes the shorts show things in context and sometimes they don't. You're just using a tool to put something out there.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're like, oh wait, that could have actually pulled this, you know, this dialogue into it to bring things to light a little bit better, and that's fine. But shorts are shorts. I mean, we have to understand that, you know.
Yeah. So I do go through them and I watch them before I post them to make sure that they are understandable, at least. You know what I mean? Because some of them are completely like, you know, nobody would get what we were talking about unless they actually watched the podcast. But yeah.
And that's fair. I mean, you know, there's a lot of assumptions, and there's a lot of, hey, this is just flat out what I think, and without any. In other words, this person doesn't want chance. It seems like he doesn't. He's holding a position, I should say. Yeah. Pretty adamantly that he doesn't want a chance to dialogue about this. When we're trying to dialogue together, you and I disagree on some things. You and Corey disagree on some things. And there's people out there that disagree on some things as well that have posted comments, but they've been in a way that it seems like they're okay to dialogue with us about it. And that's fine. That's what we want, right?
Yeah.
If you're adamant about something to where you're going to swear and just put something out there that says, hey, we're the ones that are control freaks, when in fact he's the one that says we ought to, you know, rule out all religions against the law. It's like, well, who's a control freak? You know,
that's right.
I mean?
I'm not advocating for any laws to change how you behave or act. I mean, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
I don't care what you do.
Yeah,
you know
and I don't want to be. Well, I do want to take it at face value and say, you know, just in the in the few sentences that were put forth, I mean, the control freak is really on the other side to say, look, I don't want this stuff, and I don't want you talking about this stuff, and I want to advocate for religion and any type of religion out there being against the law. Okay, well, I mean, I'm not saying that atheism should be against the law or agnosticism should be against the law.
Yeah.
And we're not saying that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
So
well, this goes back to why I love like philosophy. It's like when you pit two ideas against each other, one's going to win out. You know what I mean? And that's way more powerful than just trying to silence the other idea. You don't silence the other idea, you beat it. You know what I mean? You beat it with a better idea, and when you do that, it's far more powerful, and it goes far much further than just trying to be like, no. Although I will say, if you want to shut somebody down quick, just stop talking to them, walk the other way.
Yeah, I mean, and we admitted there's times to just stop the conversation. We admit that. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's so. And that does happen every once in a while. But if you think about morality, like where does morality sit?
Yeah.
Some people think it sits within us, right?
Yeah.
We have reason and good reason, not just the fact that the Bible tells me so reason. We believe that morality or truth, at least, right? Where does truth exist? Some people think truth is arbitrary and it ebbs and flows. We say that ultimate truth exists outside of us. Well, if it exists outside of us, right? If we can prove it exists outside of us, then we have to say, well, there's something outside of us, right?
Yeah.
That extra knows, that Latin term that says outside of us, that says that we within ourselves can't. We know truth, and agnostics know truth, and atheists know truth, right?
Yeah.
We're not saying we are the ones that know truth per se, but we are saying that we're saying, well, wait a sec, we got to look at where it originates from, so we don't have this ebb and flow of what truth is, dependent on the circumstances, dependent on the way society is bent toward, because society can be bent towards something, actually be bent towards something, and we could say, well, Hitler was okay because society thought that it was okay in his time. Well, then you have to argue that, right?
Yeah, well, that goes all the way back to the Nuremberg trial things, which is our most popular short with not quite 2,000 views, a little under 2,000 views, but that's one of our most popular shorts where I'm talking about the Nuremberg trials. And yes, right. That was their defense. Once again, I mean, I hate to drum on the same thing. It's like I bring it up every single time, but it's like, that was their defense. It's like, hey, we were just doing what we were told. We were just doing what the country wanted, we were just obeying, right? And then the rest of the world says, no, that's not a good enough excuse, you know what I mean? Just because everybody else believes that it's okay doesn't mean it is actually okay.
If there's a certain society that basically said, I can actually rob a man, kill him for no reason just because I want his wife or his goods or anything like that, does that make it right? Because that society says, yes, it is right? So with their morality is within themselves, it's right. If their morality is outside of themselves, which we believe, and I bet this guy, whatever his name is, believes it as well, then you have to ask the question, then where does it come from? That's it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, that was basically what Corey was getting to, is asking, it's like the murder thing, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's real. It's like if you sit there and you just say that there are, I don't know. An empirical truth has to be there somewhere. There has to be an empirical truth, something else that dictates it's wrong, other than just like I'm protecting myself, right? Because like the easy one for murder would be like, well, there shouldn't be any murder because then that way I won't get murdered, right? That's the easiest way to say that. But then like the deeper thing, and this is what we were talking about with Corey, where I was talking about thieving and everything. Well, it's not just that it's not bad for you, it's you're actively hurting somebody else as well. You know what I mean? So anyways. All right. Okay,
that was long. Actually, we spent a good amount of time being helpful to this guy, hopefully, or other people out there.
No, I mean, I think it is interesting, to respond to some of these and
Are there?
just so people see what's out there, and like I said, it wasn't just he didn't just put like one sentence. He put a lot of other sentences. So anyways, all right.
Any other comments that you thought that it would be good to respond to, or are we good there?
No, I mean I had read good? That other. There was the other one that was really good where he was he's talking about the faith. Now this is where you and me are talking about what faith is, right?
Okay.
And he says, but you don't need faith. Faith is a firm belief in something that has no proof. Now, I responded to this on the last one. Right. A firm belief in something that has no proof. Now, we agree that's not actually what faith is to us. Just like you said, hope in the Bible it's not like hope, I hope my team wins, right? You know what I mean? It's something deeper. It's faith in a person, right? It's like when you have a good friend that actually this is funny because I just on Saturday, Corey's car broke down on the way from my house back to the city.
And what did you do? You passed him and waved, or
no? He called me and I came and I picked him up. Yeah, and I brought him home.
That's a good friend.
But that's what faith is. Faith is like you have a friend that that you can rely on. Right. Anyways, he says there are no guarantees that tomorrow exists. That's what I was saying in the short. I was saying that you can't prove that yesterday exists or tomorrow exists. And he says yesterday or even the last few seconds, nothing can really be proven to absolute certainty, but theories based on observations can establish reasonable expectations given the data you have available to you.
I don't disagree with that.
I totally agree with that. Yeah, exactly. Establishing proof in the world we inhabit must have something tangible that can be measured, where observations can be made, hypotheses can be drawn, and tests can be made. Therefore, I can theorize that my memories are highly likely my own, but what we know about the brain is memories are constantly being edited. I can reasonably draw a conclusion that yesterday existed. That was that's the key one I want to go back to. But our brains interpret the world through senses and present us with the hallucination of reality in which we live and cannot escape. He says, I can reasonably draw a conclusion that yesterday existed. And then my response is, I would change that and I would say, I have faith that yesterday existed.
I would say it's the same thing.
It's the exact same thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
What you just said.
Based on what he's saying.
You can't prove that it's going to happen, but you have reasonable expectation and hope that it will based on
what the data that I have, the way that we've lived, my memories and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, when we're talking about biblical faith, this is just an example of how we would say it. But if we're just talking in general, like cultural faith, yeah, that's the same thing. In that one,
we look at the world. We technically, the atheists and us and the Christians look at the world the same way. They see the same thing. The thing is, what they're doing is they interpret the data differently, right? It's like, because so many times I'll see the evolutionists will bring forth a piece of evidence and they'll say, this is a piece of evidence for evolution and that there is no God. And the Christian will bring forth the same evidence and will be like, this is proof that there's God and that there is no evolution, right? And it's the same thing. It's the same item. It's just the interpretation of the data that is going wonky. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It does. Have you ever seen... I don't know, just stuff out there in the internet. I've seen it several times where I can't even bring up examples, but you'll see something out there, and they'll and it's not really even in the faith realm or in the religious realm at all. In fact, I don't even see that there. But they'll show maybe two opposing things. Well, because this isn't true, then this other thing is. It's like, wait, sometimes I think I mentioned this one time, sometimes there's a third option out there, right? Now, when it comes to faith, sometimes it's either true or it's not. So I don't want to dismiss that point, but sometimes it's like you're not even bringing the holistic concept in there, and we have to choose between A or B, not C or D that you didn't even mention, Yeah. But anyway, that's not a religious thing. It's just a thing I see out there for people to realize. It's like, wait, you're presenting us with it's either this or that, and it may not be a this or that. That's my point.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes statements are sometimes they do that on purpose. Sometimes it's a little deceptive.
Oh
Well,
yeah, oh yeah.
it can only be this or
Surveys.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like
you'll especially get that in the news. Like
yeah,
if you watch like the modern, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, sometimes they'll present a case, and it's like it's either this or that. You
yeah.
know what
That's
I
a
mean? And
great examples.
yeah,
Yep,
and part of what
yep.
me and Corey had talked about was the fact that like life is so complex, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's everybody has an infinitely complex life. You know what I mean? It's way more than just the surface level.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much going on. There's so many things going on in the back of people's minds. I gotta pay this bill. Oh, how am I gonna make enough money? How do
Oh
I gotta take
man.
care of stuff at my house. I've got things that are falling apart. You know what I mean? I've got to
Mm-hmm.
make sure I got enough food for tomorrow. I got, you know what I mean? On and on and on and on and on. And those things are just always there in the back of the mind, and your body is always constantly having to deal with that. And it's like, yeah, like that person walking down the street, they may look like they have it all together, you know what I mean? But there's a lot of stuff they're doing to make themselves look that way.
I think oh my gosh, that's a whole, you bring a whole different aspect into this conversation. All I want to say about that, because
Yeah.
we could go down a really big path on that. I totally agree with you on that. And it really goes to say that it's something that I've been trying to do, but I could do a lot better. I'm not saying that I'm going to try to realize, in every instance where the person really is in life, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Or what brings them to, I don't know, brings them to not, maybe it could be, here's an example, not even a live example, but maybe I think that they have an attitude with me in the store or whatever, it doesn't even
Yeah.
matter, just anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think if we could have more grace, we talked about that, but
Oh,
that's
yeah,
that's
yeah.
really a me thing, you know what I mean? A lot more grace, not knowing where they're at, not knowing what happened that day, not knowing the stresses that they're under.
Yeah.
And to your point, there's pressure, and there's pressure to make you look better than you really are. I'm not saying that you need to like lay your burdens down on everyone. That's not a good thing either.
Yeah.
But at the same time, at the same time, it's really interesting. Corey brought up something on the last podcast.
Uh-huh.
Actually, he was pretty open about a couple things, but he brought up something about a friend of his that really was not a friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It ended
yeah,
up
yeah.
burning him, and he kind of saw in the past, how this person was, and he couldn't believe that he kind of got swayed. I think it was a trip that, he didn't really give
Yeah.
explanation for that, and that's fine. But basically, this guy burned him on a trip that he was supposed to go on. Right? I
Yeah.
don't know the details, but I guess the point is that he was open about it. It's interesting that it gave me a whole new light about him, and it could have about other people too. Just that little openness about things that I'm not willing to do. I'm not very open, to be honest with you, but. I have a friend, I think I've told you about it. Maybe I've told mom about it. I've told other people, but same kind of thing. It doesn't matter who the friend is, but this guy was a very long friend of mine. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And over time, actually it's probably in high school where I started realizing this guy is really out for himself, like hard out for himself. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
And to the point to where he almost doesn't give a rat's what about other people. After several years of just not talking to him or whatever, not really just not talking to him. It's just I go to a different state. He's in the same state, and kind of the same thing. I meet up with him, and after meeting up with him after several years, I realized he's the same person.
Yeah.
Because of circumstances. And I'm like, wow, one thing is people don't change like we expect. The second thing is it's interesting that even though, he's agnostic, I'd like to talk to him about that maybe, but I'm not agnostic, obviously. But there is a thing commonly that has happened to us where we have been burned by someone we thought was a good friend. Right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really weird. Like I had kind of said with Corey, it kind of like as he was going through it, man, I was kind of thinking about Tim, you know what I mean? Because me and Tim haven't talked in years, you know what I mean? And it was really weird. I don't know. Well, part of it is the fact that he did go back to California and everything like that, and he he felt that's where he needed to go and whatnot. And of course, I want to be here with my family over here. So I mean, but I do kind of feel guilty looking back. I kind of feel like I could have been a little better. I could have been a little more supportive and everything like that. And I kind of feel like I was a little bit of a dick to him. So I hope that makes sense.
That it does.
Anyways, all right. So what do you? What you have a bunch of notes. It looks like you got a few.
Well, I don't have I mean, it looks like a lot of notes, but there's really two things, two things holistically, but kind of a little more detail underneath a couple of them, right? One has to do with end times that we talked about. If you, and it's up to you, like I said, it's up to you, but I wouldn't mind actually kind of expanding on some of the stuff because I felt like we had some really good discussions on that, but I only skimmed the surface. So there's a couple other points that I want to bring forth that I don't think I mentioned in the last one. That's one.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, speaking about your friend, it was interesting toward the end of the podcast. I forgot how he put it, but it was almost like, okay, like we talked and you like I'm sitting, I'm Corey and you're Zach and he was like, oh yeah, so after discussion I feel like I might have a chance because I am a good person or something like that. I was like,
yeah, I know.
I was like,
hey,
wait
the
a second.
discussion was good.
You're a really smart dude. You're really thinking, but you might have missed a good portion of the point that we're trying to get across in this. That at least I'm trying to get across in this podcast. When I say there's nothing good you can do. So
yeah.
So I don't know.
That's that one thing right there.
Yeah.
That's kind of that final piece. You know what I mean? That's really hard to get somebody over. Well, it's like what he was saying. It's like you go crazy if you really do. If you really, if you really dive into it, you know what I mean? There are people when they turn that mirror on themselves, you know what I mean? They actually look at themselves and they dig into it and they figure out who they are and what they've done and you know what I mean? Things like that. Yeah, it could drive you crazy. It could absolutely drive you crazy. And that's why and that might be why people don't do it, you know what I mean? People don't do it because they don't want to look at it because if they do look at it, it's going to drive them nuts, man.
Well, have you ever heard that term, be honest with yourself? No, I don't know if it comes in play here, but that is a saying, right? Be honest with yourself. It's like, no, I don't want to be honest with myself.
Yeah, people don't want to. People don't like the truth. I say it all the time. I say that all the time. I said that on the podcast with Allison, as I said,
you can't handle the truth.
Yeah,
right? Like that. That's there's a couple good lines in life. That one is really good, and then the one where we talked about it several times where Jesus and Pilate says, "What is truth?" And I just felt like he just kind of threw up his hands, not expecting an answer, but it is the question.
Yeah.
It's such a great question, but I don't think it was said in that manner to learn. It was said like he was like, it's just too hard to understand.
I can't figure this out. Yeah. So I'm not going to try anymore.
Yeah, it was a great one.
I can't handle the truth. The funny thing is he's the bad guy. Jack's the bad guy in that movie.
You end up finding out he is. Yeah. It's like as you go through it, and
but he's but he's defending his position and he believes in it. That's why he says you can't handle the truth. Yeah. It's because he actively believes that his position is correct. You know what I mean? He really does think that he's in the right. Even though something horrible happened, he's like, I did what was necessary to keep the country safe. You know what I mean? That's his mindset, his final thinking.
That's how we deal with people like that.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, really cool. Really cool movie, man. So good. Well, it's funny, and in the end, they let the kids go in the end, but the kids still get court-martialed out of the they're in the Marines, I guess, not the Army. Yeah. They're in the Marines. But anyways,
it was a movie, so we can just
yeah. It was a movie. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen what is it?
A Few Good Men.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great. It's so funny. The movie is filmed like it's a Rob Reiner movie, right?
Is it really?
Yeah, I think it is. So
are you kidding?
Yeah, it's filmed like it's made for TV or something. Like as you watch it, like the shots are really static, and it plays like Law and Order, where the shots just kind of like shift.
Didn't he do Spinal Tap?
Did he do Spinal Tap? Oh my God, I love Spinal Tap. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I mean,
turn it up to 11.
Yeah,
these amps go up to 11. Well, why don't they just make 10 louder? yeah, but these amps go up to 11. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. I love.
Oh man, yeah. Rob Reiner's actually in the movie, and I'm pretty sure he is the director.
I think
movie.
you're right. Yeah,
but I wouldn't have thought A Few Good Men. But anyway, that's how are we getting into these things? So it's just the way
I think one episode I wanted to talk about is I do want to go through one where we're actually like fully discussing art and art's implication on like humanity and everything like that, because art's a pretty wild thing. Like it's way different than anything else that's out in the animal kingdom, right? The animal kingdom comes up with like patterns and things like that and everything, but there's something different that we can do. Something about art that's different.
So
anyway,
are you saying Animal Kingdom like honeycomb and different things?
Yeah, there are things that have natural
that
patterns that show up, right?
Yeah.
And you could call them artistic. You know what I mean? Or there's a few mathematical equations that'll come up with like these crazy patterns. You know what I mean? And people point that to a designer. They're like, well, this is so intricate right here that it has to be designed by somebody.
Yeah.
Which is good stuff and everything. But then there's also something to be said about like when we do art, when humans do art. You have things like asymmetry. Like we understand it even deeper than just patterns and things like that. We can actually make pictures with like meaning and deeper meanings and like that are portraying a certain story or something like that. You know what I mean? So you guys used to have a picture of what is it? Not Gawain. One of who's Lancelot and Guinevere. You guys used to have a painting of that in your home. And it's crazy because
I know which one you're talking about, where he looks like he's going out to battle.
Yeah, that's right. He's like on a horse or something, and she's on the balcony, like handing him a flower or something. Something like that. But anyways, the point is, you can look at the image and the whole story of Gawain and Lancelot, or I'm sorry, Guinevere. And I keep saying Gawain. Gawain's my favorite of the the Knights of the Round Table. But anyways, Lancelot and her, the whole story just unfolds just by looking at one picture. I know what's going on. I understand the story. I just look at the picture. I know the whole story, and I can play the whole story out in my mind.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. So rabbit trail again. So yeah, let me. So mom and I.
This episode is like a cleanup episode. We're cleaning up all this stuff.
Well, I do want to talk about end times.
Yeah.
So
let's go into that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll get on the rabbit trail maybe later. But anyway, about art because there's some really good art out there. Anyway, and we were able to see some in DC. So remind me.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
So let's just say the end times is again I believe it's an internal discussion within the church. I really do. Did I used to hold to a futuristic end times? Yes. And what we talked about when we talked a little bit about dispensationalism, and he said, well, what is dispensationalism? I was like, well, I have to think about that, right? So we came back to it, but again, it just says, it breaks basically God's timetable up into different segments, and I think there's like 5 in true dispensationalism. But what's interesting is it brings Israel and the church and keeps them on separate paths. So that where traditionally it never did that. So
yeah, it's so funny because me and Allison, we did not end up talking about that, even though that's what Allison believes, right? Allison basically believes in dispensationalism.
Yeah.
Allison basically believes in that, but we basically just talked about life from a woman's perspective, from her perspective as we were talking.
Yeah,
but it talked a little bit about faith
and there's like and there's the guy that we mentioned on the channel, Mike Winger. I'm just gonna throw his name out there. I really like him. I really like the way he thinks through things. He has a Friday podcast. He also has other. He does have one though on the end times that I started listening to. Right. Here's the point I want to make is that again, it's an internal discussion. I really like Mike Winger a lot, but when it comes to a lot of what he says, I believe it. When it comes to end times, I definitely don't adhere to a lot of what he has to say. That's all I'm saying. Right.
Yeah.
This is again internal discussion, but. here's what I would say.
Because there was a big thing where people were thinking there was going to be a rapture, like like last month or something like that.
Oh, the same guy. Oh
for
my
some
gosh.
stupid reason.
Oh my gosh. It's Callahan, our favorite nephew.
Yeah.
Just, your favorite nephew. I have two nephews, so no, your favorite. Just kidding.
Anyway.
My favorite second favorite grandson.
Go ahead. What do you? But anyways, what was up with this rapture thing?
So anyway, he told me about the guy, and I said, oh yeah, I was watching another guy that I really liked that was actually what do you call it? I guess basically putting out videos ahead of that time and mocking the guy that was putting forth that the rapture was going to happen like on the 24th or 25th,
okay.
And he was mocking him, right?
Yeah,
and he is.
Well, now he gets to mock him even more now.
Oh yeah, he was,
now that it's not.
He was like, "This is like
happen.
the 21st one I've been through, of different people." And so, and he's a pastor too, by the way. The guy that was mocking him.
Oh, okay. That's probably not good then.
No, it was a good thing because he was pointing out exactly what Jesus said, that no one knows the day or hour. So it was a good thing, honestly. Jesus told us to mark these dudes, and he was marking them. So but it's interesting that Callahan. Yes, getting back to Callahan, he told me that he now has an October date. And I said, how does he have an October date? No, I haven't listened to the dude. He said, something about, he was looking at the wrong calendar and it's a Gregorian calendar or something like that. And
right.
And I was like, oh my gosh. So apparently he heard God's voice, but now, obviously he didn't hear it very well on the first one. Now he has to rehear it and put it against a different kind of calendar. So all that to say is, I promise you that the rapture won't occur at the time that he says, and and life will continue, right? The same as it has, right?
Well, I think that was part of my point as we were talking about it, right? Is my interpretation of it is the way that God works. This is how He's done it in everything in the Bible. Like it's always some sort of like natural thing that like it might do something supernaturally, but it's based on something like like the parting of the Red Sea. It's still water and wind, rising up and moving. You know what I mean? It's not like it's you get what I'm saying? Like even the fire pillars are still made of fire. You know what I mean? So there's something natural. There's always that question God can still leave that to basically the person that doesn't want to see, right? There's always that out that they can say, oh, it was a natural event. You know what I mean? That's the whole idea with the Pharaoh. Once again, we've talked about it a dozen times already, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it. There are two things though, and I'll tell you who actually said this. It's Charlie Kirk that said this on one of the videos I was watching, just shorts recently. But he said there's really two things in terms of miracles that you have to believe in. Every other thing falls into place, right? Creation and the resurrection. Anyway, so I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
think
I
about
totally
that,
agree. I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, I totally agree.
So Darby.
Oh, actually, we had said. Though I had asked you this though, the virgin birth too. That's kind of a key one too. Yeah, that'd be like the third key one that like has to be. Yeah.
Well, what did I say to that though? I think I said something about, well, that's really linked to the fact that he's God and he could rise or something like that. I think
you can say that it's linked to the resurrection, but I mean.
That is a good one. You're right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
It'd be hard to sit there and try to say, oh, he wasn't born of a virgin, and then say he's still resurrected. Yeah, you know what I mean. It'd be hard. You'd have to like be. You'd have to really put some thought into it. I don't know. Yeah, it's probably probably best just to go with those three are absolutely true.
Yeah, could totally agree with you on that. So the first thing about, so remember, I guess what I believe is that the rapture is in the Bible, but I'm talking about the traditional view, not the traditional view, but the probably most well-known view, the Left Behind series, that type of thing, where most Southern Baptists believe in this, and most Calvary Chapels believe in it, where we're going to be raptured, then there's going to be a 7-year tribulation period, and then Christ...
People are just going to disappear.
Yep.
In a miracle-like state.
Yep. Yeah. Planes. If there's a Christian pilot, the plane's going to crash, and all these other things. Seriously, that's kind of how they show it, right?
Yeah.
And so, and at the end of the 7-year tribulation, what's going to happen, right? They would agree, and all in this belief system. And again, I mean, I used to believe it, but I never kind of understood why. But anyway. All in this belief system say that at the end of the 7 years, Christ will return. That's one of the keys that I'm going to throw out here as well. But if you think about it, so Darby was the one who put this thing forth. I always thought I just assumed he was an American, was from the United States. He wasn't. He was like over in somewhere in Great Britain, Scotland. Okay. I can't remember. But anyway, he put this thing forth, right? Now, what's interesting is that when he kind of had this aha moment, it was like out of this meeting, and God had spoken to him and showed him this different thing, right? Exactly. So how do you have a different thing out there, right? So the point is that this is like in the 1800s, right? Where really it was kind of forced upon, forced into the religious system. It wasn't historical in the past, right? Now, some people could argue that there was either one or two people that may have kind of alluded to something similar, that we're going to be taken out prior to Christ coming back, and there's still going to be, humanity on the earth.
Yeah.
But they weren't stable in their other beliefs, right? And they weren't really part of the belief system as we think of Christians in the past, right? They weren't they weren't like the Christian fathers, so to speak. So that's one thing. So Charles Darby, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, real quick though. I mean, isn't there? Well, I mean, it's kind of like I had talked about, like with the Old Testament, where it's like they're not. Or there seems to be this thing where they're not as concerned about the afterlife, you know what I mean? And you saying there's a ton of stuff in there, referencing the afterlife and everything like that, or the covenant will last forever.
A lot. Well, let me put it this way: there's a lot more in the Old Testament than I thought. I started thinking when you asked the question, or kind of alluded to that, I thought. I started looking back, and it wasn't hard to find references to eternal, to life after death, so to speak, even in the Old Testament, right? And go ahead, but it was more apparent than I realized.
Yeah, but still, their focus is on living a good life, I guess you could say, or living an appropriate life, you know what I mean? And I mean, I feel like when you're in the middle of like medieval Europe, right, in the Dark Ages, I get the feeling I'm not thinking about the afterlife at all. I'm only thinking about
when you're eating potatoes, dirt, and leaves.
Yeah, I'm thinking that you're just concentrating on day to day.
In a hot stew with no seasoning.
Yeah,
okay.
You get what I mean, though. You get like while. I'd be like, I really don't care.
You might. So here's what I would say. Just because we're supposed to kind of throw something out there to maybe think of the flip side, right? And I'm just saying this, right? Maybe those people are like, gosh darn it, I wish there was something else, and they are thinking of the afterlife. And they're on that discovery because they cannot stand where they're at right now. I don't know.
God. Yeah.
Who knows? Anyway, that was kind of a little tongue in cheek, but
No.
So when I told you kind of the timeline where it's where it basically people are taken up, 7-year tribulation. We know what happens in the middle of the tribulation, where the abomination that causes desolation happens, where the Antichrist on earth will sacrifice an animal on the altar at the temple, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what they say that is, and that happens right at the 3.5 year mark, right? And then Christ comes at the end. Well, if we don't know the day or hour, then we're gonna know the day or hour, right? You know what I mean? Like, so you're not supposed to know, right? It's gonna happen suddenly.
Yeah.
There's kind of this eminency about it, right? That we're supposed to have, but we're not going to know the day or hour. Yet, wait a sec. If I know when the rapture took place, and I know when the abomination that causes desolation took place, and I'm on Earth because I'm one of those bad guys. No, I'm on Earth during this time. Well, I'm gonna know. I know the day or hour when Christ tells me that I won't know the day or hour, right?
Okay.
So that actually, not that I won't know, but no one knows the day or hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing.
I think Callahan put it as in Jesus himself doesn't know, but only the Father knows, or something. He said there's a specific passage that says only the Father knows.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens in Matthew 24. Okay. That's a whole theological debate, because it is a great debate on, well, how come he doesn't know? So
yeah.
And that has to do with anyway, it's a great theological discussion, right?
Yeah.
Now, Jesus prayed that we would not be removed from tribulation, but we would be able to withstand it, right?
Yeah.
He mentioned that a couple times. Jesus did.
Hey, that's my whole theory of everybody going into the furnace.
There are other places in the Bible that just talk about tribulation, like several places in the Bible, right? That talk about it. So Old Testament, I'm sure it talks about it a lot, but New Testament is a little more of rather than the things that have happened, right? It's more theologically based, or, like this is how you endure tribulation, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't talk about, we're going to be removed from tribulation, right?
Yeah.
Now, there is a verse out there, and I do want to actually, let me point that out in a bit. Let me see. Actually, it is right here. So there is a verse out there that is cling to, right? And it says, right, and it's in Revelation, and Jesus is he's talking to the churches, right? So it says, since you have kept my word, basically, it was one of the good churches, right? I will keep you from the hour of trial that will come upon the earth, right? So you've got to ask yourself, first off, there's nothing about being taken out, right?
Yeah.
There's something that says you will be kept from the hour of trial. What does that mean, right? And then again, we talked about how you interpret the Bible. You don't take this and say, oh, that means we're going to be raptured. There's nothing there that says that. You have to say, okay, what does that mean in the context, right?
Yeah.
And then the rapture, if we talk about other places in the Bible, like I said, I believe in the rapture. I don't believe that it is going to happen and then we're going to be taken away. The rapture happens that when Jesus comes back, we'll be raptured. That's really it, right?
Okay, yeah.
The dead in Christ will rise first, and after that, those who are left, who remain, will be caught up with the Lord to be with him forever, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's all it says, and it says that in Thessalonians, and it says it in 1 Corinthians 15, chapter 15, and the whole chapter 15 is all about the resurrection of the dead. And then the people that believe in the rapture of the church, they go into that and they say, "See, that's the rapture." Well, yeah, I totally agree. But when does it take place? And where are you getting from that verse and the whole context within that whole passage that is a pre-tribulation rapture? You can't get it from there, right?
Yeah.
So back to
you're superimposing two things that aren't connected, and you're connecting them in a weird way.
Yeah, that's the way. Now I'm trying to be careful here because I adamantly don't agree with the dispensationalist view, but I'm trying to be nice here and just gracious here to say, look, I absolutely don't believe in that. Like, how can you believe in that when you're superimposing, like you said, you're taking this verse over here and you're taking actually this the 70 weeks of 69 and then the 7. It comes from Daniel, right? It doesn't even come from Revelation anywhere, right? So you're superimposing Daniel on top of Revelation. You're superimposing that we will be taken out when Christ returns is really the context and the resurrection. And you're saying that's really when we're raptured at the beginning of the tribulation period. you're superimposing verses on top that don't have anything to do with it. The other thing too about interpretation is when you have something, you're going to go into context on that 3:10 verse, Revelation 3:10, where you will be. What does it say? This is just one version, and there's other versions too, but they're pretty much the same. I will keep you from the hour of trial that comes upon the earth. What does that mean? If in fact it doesn't say that we will be taken up, it just says we'll be kept from trial. What does it mean? I'm not saying I know exactly what it means. I am saying I would surmise that it means that basically, since you have kept to my word, that I will keep you from being deceived on the earth during the time where there are deceivers and the deceiver will come, right?
Run for the hills, right?
Run for the hills,
and the people that are in the hills survive.
Yeah, it could,
so to speak.
It could be exactly
because they're not
that,
in the city and they're not being, sieged by the Romans.
Yeah, exactly.
If that makes sense.
No, I think it could.
That was an analogy, people.
It could be no. It could be that. It could be that. It could be a combination. It could be that. It could be I'm going to recall those things to mind that you already know, you already studied, and you already believe in, right? So you can withstand the trial that's going to come your way, right?
Yeah.
It could be even that, right? But there's nothing in there that says, oh, wait, it says we're going to be kept from the hour of trial that comes on the earth. It doesn't say that we're going to be taken away. It just says the implication, if you read other verses and put everything together, it means that he's going to help us withstand it. That's really what it means, right?
Yeah,
so that's my whole spiel on that.
And this is one of those things, like, where once again I believe that knowledge is so powerful, you know what I mean? And you learn, and when you're doing stuff like that, when you're actually like thinking about it and trying to figure out if you're trying to answer other questions like why,
mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? You can learn a lot more. And I was talking with Allison, this is kind of what I was saying to you and previously, the more you know, the more you study something and you look at it, mm-hmm. right? The more knowledgeable you are about that thing, and you can avoid other things that are similar to it, right? And so I had brought up an example with Allison. I forget exactly what it was, but me and her had basically come to a conclusion of what a certain sin was, right? Mm-hmm. And then once we figured it out, we took that thing that made it a sin, and now I could apply it to other things, and I can say, okay, this is what makes certain things sinful or not sinful, right? Mm-hmm. We've dug deeper and we found something below the surface, you know what I mean? And like I said, knowledge gives you power. I remember that's right. There was one time I told you I was going to bring up the snake in the desert with Moses, right? Why does Moses raise up a snake, right? And that symbol is the mm-hmm. symbol for medical attention.
That's interesting. Yeah, you're right about that. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
how can I forget that?
It's a snake on a stick. Most hospitals, that is one of their symbols,
mm-hmm.
right? And so the whole point of this snake being raised up in the desert, it's like when you're at school and the teacher draws something on the chalkboard for mm-hmm. you, right? So let's say it's the day you're supposed to be cutting open frogs or whatever. She'll have a picture up on the whiteboard or whatever mm-hmm. that shows you, okay, well, this is where its heart is, this is where its lungs are, and everything like that, right? It's mm-hmm. the same thing with the snake. The snake's raised up so that way everybody can see it. That way everybody you're not scared of it anymore. And you know how to deal with it when it is around you or in front of you. It's somebody teaching you. You know what I mean?
For context, so I mean, do you want to go in context, like what happened, and what made the snake be raised?
Oh yeah. Well, the Israelites are it's when they're stuck in the desert for 40 years, mm-hmm. right? And so people are dying off because they keep getting bit by snakes,
mm-hmm.
right? And so Moses, I think he asked God, "What do I do?" Right? And then so God tells him, "Have Aaron make a snake, right, out of brass, right, or copper or something like that, and then put it on a pole and raise it up, something like that, something to that effect." And then he does, and then everybody looks upon the snake, at this brass snake, and everybody that looks upon it, basically, no longer gets bit by the snakes out in the desert, right? And so the way I explain it, my idea of the explanation of it is that they learned about the creature itself. They learned about the snake, what it looks like, and how to avoid it. And I assume Moses tells them some things like, hey, look, most of the time they live underneath rocks. You know what I mean? So be careful what rocks you flip over. Look out for this area or something like that. It's the same way we learn about poisonous snakes and poisonous spiders and things like that.
Yeah. So for context, to your point, the bronze snake, it was lifted up. So Moses prayed to the people. I mean, and I don't want. Yeah, let's not go into it because it may deserve a different time. I'm not sure, but I think for context for the people listening, right? So they traveled along from Mount Hor to the route to the Red Sea to go around Edom, not Eden, but Edom. But the people grew impatient on the way. They spoke against God and against Moses. The whole time they grumbled. It says they grumbled in the desert. You know what I mean? And it's interesting that a lot of them were saying like why have you why are we out here in the desert? You have brought us out here to die. When in fact they were in slavery in Egypt. Slavery, like serious slavery in Egypt. And yet they came out to freedom. But freedom, we talk about this kind of in the U.S. culture, right? But it's not quite that. But we say freedom comes at a cost, right?
Freedom is scary. Freedom's not free, right?
Yeah,
all those sayings.
It's scary. I think that's something. Yeah, exactly. It's scary, and they were out there not knowing where their next meal was coming from. That's why God provided manna and all these other things. They're grumbling and they are mad. They're mad at Moses and they're mad at God, right? But who do they complain to? They complain to Moses because Moses is like the Jesus because he's the go-between between him and God, and of course I'm going to be just ticked off at Moses because God's too far out there, right? But anyway, it's another great story. It really is. You know what I mean? But why? Oh, actually, it says it right here. They spoke against God and against Moses, and they said, "Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? There is no bread, there is no water, and we detest this miserable food." Okay, you want to be back in slavery? Okay, but then the Lord sent venomous snakes among them to bite them, and many of the people in Israel, many of the Israelites died. I would say that was a partial judgment right there.
Yeah.
And the people came to Moses and said, "We have sinned when we spoke against the Lord and against you. Pray that the Lord would take the snakes away from us." So Moses prayed for the people. Then he said to Moses, "Take a snake, put it on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at this and live." So Moses made a bronze snake, put it on a pole, and then when anyone was bitten by a snake and looked at the bronze snake, they lived. Now, and Jesus said in John the 3rd chapter, he said that same thing, where the snake is lifted up, so the Son of Man will be lifted up, that anyone who believes in him will not perish but have eternal life. Okay. So, great stuff. We're not into a theological thing on numbers right now. It's great stuff. We want you to get out there and explore these stories. They're great stories, and try to understand that, what the implication of these things are.
The funny thing is, though, it makes me, when we read through those stories, it really makes me believe that thing that hell is a place of transformation, because they're in hell. That's where they're at, right? They're in the middle of a desert, right? Where the food sucks, it's hot all the time, right? They hate it, you know what I mean? And they're going through hell, and then some of them, right? If some of them make it through and some of them don't, I guess, you know what I mean? Which is weird to think about. But then back to Revelations, and you're talking about the tribulation and everything. It could be that what it means by that is, hey, if you do the things that I've told you to do, you know what I mean, then the tribulation's not going to hit you the same way that it's going to hit the people that are deniers. You know what I mean? Just like in that story. The people that are cursing Moses and God, you know what I mean, get taken out, and then the ones that don't or repent, you know what I mean, move
It
on.
is back to faith. What do you know? Do you have faith, and what do you have faith in, right? And do you have, and if without faith, like Hebrew says, without faith, it is impossible to please God. So we don't please God by doing; we please God by having faith. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really important to understand. Hey, by the way, so can you find the verse that that Allison mentioned?
Oh yeah. Sorry.
I just want to read it. I'm not trying
Yeah.
trying to explain it or answer it.
Galatians 3:24. Now here's
Okay.
the thing: is we noticed, man, there's a pretty big difference between your Bible and our Bible. There's a couple of verses that we read, and yeah, it's pretty interesting the way interpretation works with some of them.
Well, let's read this. Well, everything again. You want to read? I'm locking things up. You want to read in context. Now, most of the time, I'm going to read from the ESV. Sometimes I read from the NIV. I'm not trying to pick or choose one, but it just happens. Like, what is my app on? Well, it's on the ESV right now, so that's what I'm going to read by default.
Okay.
I'm not picking and choosing. So 24 Galatians 3:24. So then, that sounds like there's some things prior to that. Is the law, so actually let me start at 21. It probably needs to start. So then is the law contrary to the promises of God? Certainly not. For if a law had been given that would give life, then righteousness would indeed come by the law. In other words, you're trying to earn your way. But the scripture imprisoned everything under sin, so that the promise by faith, this is great stuff because it actually has to do with a little bit of what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
So that the promise by faith in Jesus Christ might be given to those who believe. Now before faith came, we were held captive under the law, imprisoned until the coming faith would be revealed. So then the law was our guardian until Christ came, in order that we might be justified by faith. But now that faith has come, we are no longer under a guardian, for in Jesus Christ you are all sons of God through faith, right? So, and then it talks about there is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, no male nor female. You are all in one in Christ Jesus. That has to do with your faith, right? He doesn't choose one over the other, right?
Yeah.
In this
version it says guardian.
Yeah, that's interesting because I'm curious. Guardian. What was NIV? I'm just curious. Guardian. That was 3:24.
Yeah. So in the King James version it says a schoolmaster.
That does sound familiar. Yeah.
Yeah.
This actually NIV says guardian. We are no longer under a guardian. Well, a guardian and a schoolmaster is a guardian. Yeah, I mean, you could
of some sorts. Yeah.
And so anyway, those are great verses, by the way. So
yeah.
What do we believe in something by faith, or are we trying to earn our way? So
and then once again, the faith is like the faith that you have in a friendship. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like I was saying, so basically on Saturday we had a birthday party for another of our friends, and so everybody came on over to my house. And the thing is when you have that faith in each other, in your friends and everything like that, you want to do more stuff for them, or you want to be like the best host possible for them, because you are appreciative of that friendship and of that connection that you guys have. You know what I mean? And it makes it stronger. So, when you think about your relationship with God, right? When you have faith in Him, right? And when you have that trust in Him, you know what I mean? That builds your relationship stronger. And I hope that made sense. There we go. I mean, that's about as far as it gets. I mean,
no, you can't say much more than that,
Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, we're at an hour and 3.
Well, unless you have anything else, I think this was, I mean, this was a good catch-up version, like you said.
Yeah, it's almost like a exactly, a catch-up episode. Yeah,
yeah, and I really wanted to talk about those other things in Revelation. We got to talk about faith. We got to talk a little bit about people that may believe. Like, I mean, we talked a little bit about Corey, right? And his beliefs. He was open. It was I'm so glad you had him on.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I could just leave and you don't have to worry, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't because honestly, the one some of these episodes that are without me have more views, so maybe you have me on less and other people on more.
No. Well, like I said, I think that that Revelations video, the one just before you went on vacation, is the highest viewed one.
Okay.
So yeah, so don't don't think that you're off. I think as YouTube, the way to grow is we just have to consistently post, and we're doing that. And so I think as long as we just remain having some sort of consistent schedule, that'll grow our audience. And it's hey, if you're still watching, to the people, watching. I mean, you guys saw how we do the comments. We love comments. Even if there's something against us or something like that, or if you want to tell us we're wrong or something like that, that's fine. We'll read it, and we'll take it as seriously as we can. You know what I mean?
And we might even read the swear words. No?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I guess I'm not too shy about that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, we're on the internet. Whatever. Anyways, but yeah, if you guys comment, we will respond. We will respond. You know what I mean? Unless it's just like a comment where you're just saying, "Hey, nice podcast," and they'll be like, "Hey, cool, I'll give you a thumbs up." But I mean, other than that, I mean, yeah. Like, follow, subscribe.
Awesome.
You got anything else to say?
I have nothing else. So, all right. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
So what do you think of this one?
That was good. Yeah, it was good. A lot of those like kind of cleaning up, because there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in the other videos that kind of like just kind of end and roll off, and you gotta figure out how to.
This seemed like we drew a box around.
Yeah, put a bow on something.
Yeah.